Welcome back to JinnZaar. Tonight, we are crossing the Atlantic Ocean to open a completely new archive of global terror. Tonight, we begin our journey into the forbidden arts of Africa and South America. Over the next three episodes, we will uncover 12 distinct rituals that proves human nature is same everywhere when they driven by extreme desire, greed, or hatred. People will willingly hand their souls over to unseen world. Before we begin our descent into these new archives, remember that this channel is a living record of the unexplained. If you have had a real encounter with the supernatural, there are three ways to share it with our community. First, you can join me live right now by clicking the StreamYard link pinned in top of the live chat. Come live and share your voice with us. Second, you can WhatsApp your voice note. The official WhatsApp number is waiting for you in the description below. Third, if you have written your experience down, you can email it directly to our archive. If you haven't subscribed to JinnZaar yet, hit the button right now, turn on the bell icon, and join our official WhatsApp channel using the link below to never miss a live deep dive. Tonight, we look at the pursuit of desire. We are breaking down four highly unique, deeply unsettling practices: Amaras de Amor, Pomba Guerra rituals, shadow catching, and the love wangle. Let's completely be transparent before we begin. These practices are strictly forbidden and are condemned across every spiritual doctrine. They represent the ultimate spiritual sin, trading the natural order for the temporary favors of jinn and chaotic spirits. We are not sharing these secrets to entertain you, nor to teach you. We are detailing them as a swear warning to document the dark realities of global occult history and to show you the slow, agony price that is always collected when you force another human being's heart. Let us cross the ocean and look at our first segment. In the modern Western world, people often hear about love spell as if they are harmless tricks involving crystals and perfumes. But in the deep, hidden traditions of Central and South American Brujería, and Amare de Amor is not a game, it is a spiritual kidnapping. It is an aggressive, calculated ritual designed to bind a person's consciousness so tightly that they physically cannot function without the presence of the caster. The actual performance of a true Amara requires absolute dedication to darkness. The client visits a brewer, a dark sorcerer, and brings specific unwashed items belonging to the target, such as a shirt holding their sweat, strands of hair from their hairbrush, or a clean photograph. The ritual begins in a room completely sealed from natural light. The sorcerer takes two specialized human-shaped wax candles, one representing the client, one representing the target. They carve the target's full name and birth date into the wax using the rusted needle. Next, the sorcerer coats the candle in rare, dark powdered herbs such as pega pega or amens amens gopo. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it, which are known in folk magic to break a person's willpower. The two wax figures are then placed face to face, pressed together until they look like a single distorted shape. The sorcerer then takes heavy, coarse red and black threads and begins to wrap the candles, winding the string dozens of times, tying tight, heavy knots while chanting prayers to spirit that wanders the earth without peace. In the ultimate, most toxic form of the magic, the client is given a dark liquid infused with these ash residues and told to slip it in the victim's food. The bound wax figures are then taken to a cemetery at midnight, buried deep inside the dirt of a fresh grave, or hidden inside the hollow trunk of a dead tree. The logic is very simple. As long as those items rot in the earth, the victim's mind is locked in a cage. To understand how this magic actually operates, we must look at the documented account of a woman named Elena and a man named Matthew. Matthew was a successful, regular man who had no interest in Elena, and he rejected her politely multiple times. Driven by quiet, burning obsession, Elena visited a practitioner in a mountain village and brought a powerful Amare de Amor. She managed to drop the prepared liquid into Matthew's drink during a crowded office gathering. Now, most people think that the curse backfires instantly. It doesn't in reality. The magic worked perfectly. Within a week, Matthew suddenly broke up with his long term girlfriend. He woke up one morning feeling an unexplainable, heavy urge to see Elena. They started dating, and within 6 months, they were married. For 7 years, they lived what looked like a beautiful, successful life. They bought a house, they traveled, and Matthew was incredibly attentive. Elena felt she had won. She enjoyed every single day of her forced devotion. But black magic is a high interest loan. Around the seventh year, the decay began. It started slowly. Matthew physically appeared like his appearance began to change. His skin became unusually pale, and his eyes lost their natural spark, looking flat and glassy. He began to suffer from terrible, repetitive nightmares. He would wake up sweating, telling Elena that he dreamt he was trapped inside a deep wooden box deep underground, unable to breathe, while someone was tying ropes around his chest. Then his behavior turned erratic. His love for Elena twisted from romance into a terrifying mechanical dependency. He could no longer look at any other human being. If Elena went to the grocery store for 30 minutes, Matthew would sit by the window, completely paralyzed, staring at the driveway without blinking until she returned. He stopped taking care of his hygiene. He stopped going to work. He became a ghost inhabiting his own body. One night, Elena woke up to a strange sound. The room was freezing cold. She turned on the lamp and saw Matthew sitting at the foot of the bed. He had a pair of heavy scissors. With a completely blank, expressionless face, he was violently cutting long, deep, gashing into his own arms and legs. Lena screamed, trying to grab the scissors, but Matthew didn't even flinch from the pain. He looked at her with his empty, hollow eyes and spoke in a voice that was completely dropped in pitch, a raspy, dual voice that didn't belong to him. The entity inside him said, "The wax figure in the graveyard have finally melted. The dirt is inside his lungs now." Matthew collapsed. He was rushed to a hospital, but his organs began to fail one by one for no medical reasons, as if his biological clock had simply been turned off. He passed away within 3 days. The horror did not end for Elena. The moment Matthew died, the heavy, oppressive entity that had been controlling him for 7 years shifted its focus to her. She began to hear constant, rhythmic, rapping sounds inside her walls, like someone tying heavy knots. She began to see a tall, dark shadow shape standing at the foot of her bed every single night. She began to just scream and be terrorized, holding long, red threads that extended directly into her chest. She would feel that every night. She lost her home, her sanity, and spent rest of the days in isolation, terrified of the dark, realizing that she had enjoyed 7 years of a stolen life, only to give up her own soul as the final payment. Next, and the second, we move down to the vibrant but spiritually dangerous landscapes of Brazil to look at the practice of Quimbanda, the invocation of Pombagira. In this belief system, Pombagira is not a gentle spirit. She is a powerful, highly chaotic female entity who rules over the crossroads, raw desire, and absolute lust. She represents the spirit of a woman who lived wild, intense lives and died under dramatic circumstances. When a person is consumed by jealousy or sexual obsession, they do not ask for a regular relationship. They call upon Pomba Giva to unleash an uncontrollable, burning lust that will strip the victim of their sleep and their logic. The mechanics of a Pomba Giva ritual are visual and highly dramatic. The ritual cannot be done at home. The caster must wait until exactly midnight on Friday night and locate a specific T-junction or an urban crossroad known as the Encruzilhada. Again, I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Where the spiritual energy of the streets intersects. The offerings must be luxurious but dark. The caster lays out a black and red cloth on the dirt. Upon this cloth, they arrange 7 red roses with the thorn left intact, a pack of expensive, unfiltered cigarettes, a a high quality bottle of strong red wine, or kachaka, I think it's a sugar cane liquor, and a bottle of heavy, sweet female perfume. The practitioner light the cigarette, letting the smoke billow into the night air, and pours the dark liquor in a circle round the offerings. They chant the secret rhythmic invocation names of Pombagira. As the energy rises, the caster states the name of the target, asking the entity to set the victim's mind on fire, to haunt their thoughts with explicit, maddening visions of the caster, and to ensure the victim can find no peace, no rest, and no comfort until they throw themselves at the caster's feet. Let's look at the experience of a young nightclub promoter named Gabriel. Gabriel was a desperate to possess a, a wealthy, independent woman who ran in high society circles, a woman named Isabella, who barely knew he existed. Determined to have her, Gabriel performed a full, elaborated Pombagira ritual at a dark city crossroad at midnight, promising the entity regular offerings of gold jewelry and premium liquor if she delivered Isabella to him. The magic was incredibly successful. Within 2 weeks, Isabella walked into the Gabriel's club, bypassed her usual VIP friends, and walked straight to him. The attraction was explosive. For 3 years, Gabriel lived a life of absolute luxury. Isabella bought him a beautiful apartment, funded his business, and was completely, passionately obsessed with him. They were like inseparable. Gabriel felt like the king of the city, enjoying the wealth, the status, and the intense passion that the crossroad spirit had delivered to his door. But a contract with a chaotic entity requires strict maintenance. After 3 years of wealth, Gabriel became arrogant. He misses his casual midnight crossroad offerings for 3 months in a row, spending his money on his own vices instead. The entity did not warn him, it simply altered the parameters of the curse. Isabella's intense passion suddenly warped into a dark, violent mania. She stopped sleeping entirely. She would sit up in bed for 48 hours straight, her eyes wide, staring at Gabriel while he slept. If he woke up, he would find her scratching her fingernails against the headboard, humming a strange, low melody. Gabriel began to notice a heavy, thick scent of cheap perfume and stale cigarette smoke filling their modern apartment at 3 a.m., even though neither of them smoked. One night, Gabriel tried to pack his bags to leave for a weekend business trip. Isabella stood in front of the door. Her face was completely distorted with rage. But she wasn't crying. Suddenly, she threw her head back and let out a loud, booming, crackling female laugh. A sound so loud, so raspy, it shattered the glass cups on the kitchen counter. It was the distinct, mocking laugh of the crossroads spirit. Isabella looked at him and said, "You forgot to feed the queen, so the queen will feed on your house. She attacked him with an unnatural, terrifying physical strength, tearing his clothes and scratching his skin with her bare hands. Gabriel managed to escape the apartment, bleeding and terrified, leaving everything behind. He ran down to the streets, but as he reached the nearest crossroad, he saw a tall, elegant woman dressed in red and black standing under the broken street lamp, holding Isabella's signature gold necklace. Crackling into the wind, Isabella was found inside the apartment hours later, completely catatonic, having destroyed every luxury item they owned. She never recovered her speech. Gabriel lost his business, his wealth, and his safety. Today, he lives in constant movement, never staying in one apartment for more than a month, because every time a Friday night arrives, he can hear that loud, mocking female laugh echoing from the nearest street corner, reminding him that when you invite the spirit of lust to build your life, it will eventually burn your house down to the ground. The third, we cross over the Caribbean islands to investigate a highly unique, quiet, and deeply psychological form of dark magic found within the system of Obeah, the art of shadow catching. In this tradition, a person's shadow is not considered a mere trick of light. It is your duho, your living spiritual essence, your protection, and the anchor of your free will. If someone controls your shadow, they control your mind. The performance of shadow catching is a cold, patient process. It doesn't require food or direct contact. A rogue Obeah practitioner is hired to track the target from a distance. They wait for a hot, clear day when the sun is at its absolute peak, specifically during the noon hours. When shadows are short, dense, and close to your body, the sorcerer carries specific tool, a clean, dark glass vial, a heavy block of raw sulfur, and a specialized long copper pin that has been buried in cemetery dirt for 9 days. As the victim walks down the street, completely unaware, the sorcerer steps into their path from behind. The moment the victim's shadow settles clearly against a stone wall or flat ground, the sorcerer drives that copper pin directly into the head section of the shadow on the ground, pinning it down on the earth. Simultaneously, they hold the glass vial open, whispering a heavy binding chant that pulls the spiritual energy of the shadow off the ground and locks it inside the glass. The vial is instantly sealed with thick black melted wax mixed with sulfur. The victim feels a sudden, brief wave of dizziness or a cold chill down their spine, but they keep walking. They don't realize that their spiritual anchor had just been locked inside a dark box in the sorcerer's cabin. Let us look at the detailed case of a wealthy plantation owner named Marcus. He desired the daughter of a local worker, a proud young woman named Clara, who refused his advances. Marcus, accustomed to getting whatever he wanted, paid a massive sum of money to an old obeah man living in the swamps to catch Clara's shadow. The sorcerer caught it perfectly under the midday sun and handed Marcus the heavy, wax sealed glass jar. Just like the other accounts, the magic didn't fail. The very next morning, Clara walked on, onto the Marcus estate. She didn't argue, she didn't fight, and then she agreed to marry him. For 5 years, Marcus lived in absolute bliss. Clara was completely cooperative. She signed over her family's land papers. She managed his like household perfectly, and she never raised her voice. Marcus felt like the most powerful man in the valley, enjoying his absolute authority over a beautiful woman who never crossed his wishes. But a shadow be kept in bottle forever without consequences. It cannot. Around the fifth year, the physical environment began to affect the spell. Marcus lived in a humid coastal area, and the dark box where he kept the jar began to develop severe black mold. One afternoon, Marcus looked at Clara while she was sitting on the porch. The sun was shining brightly, but Marcus gasped in horror. Clara was casting absolutely no shadow on the wooden floorboards. She was completely blank. Then her physical body began to mirror the condition of the hidden jar. Strange, dark, mole-like bruises began to appear under her skin. Her hair started to fall out in clumps, and her eyes turned milky white, rendering her completely blind. Yet she didn't complain of pain. She simply just sat there, nodding her head, waiting for Marcus's next command like a broken machine. Realizing the horror of what he had caused, Marcus ran to the hidden cellar to check on the glass jar. When he opened the box, he found that the black mold had cracked the wax seal on top of the jar, and the inside of the jar was filled with foul, rotting black liquid. That night, the spiritual balance shifted. Marcus woke up at midnight feeling an immense, crushing weight on his chest, a state of total agony paralysis. He looked up at the moonlit wall of his bedroom. There, moving independently of any light source, was a massive, pitch black human shadow with long, smoky fingers. The shadow crawled down the wall, slid across the floor, and wrapped its dark arms around Marcus's neck. He couldn't breathe, he couldn't scream, and he could feel the freezing liquid rot of the swamp entering his throat. Clara passed away in her sleep the exact night, her body completely covered in that strange, dark mold. Marcus was found days later by his servants, paralyzed, mute, and staring at the wall with an expression of absolute horror. He spent his remaining years sitting in an empty room, unable to speak a single word, constantly watching the floor, terrified of his own shadow. When you lock someone else's else's light in a bottle. You ensure your own life ends in absolute darkness. Finally, for tonight, we look at the traditional occult system of Haitian voodoo to examine a physical curse known as the love wangle. A wangle is a highly specialized physical charm created by a bokor, probably they called a sorcerer bokor, who works with both hands, meaning they deal with aggressive, volatile spirit known as petroloa. A love wangle is not desire to create a peaceful, loving home. It is an aggressive spiritual clean chain meant to drag a person into an unbreakable, forced relationship through the power of heat and fire. The construction of a love wangle is complex, stomach churning ritual. The boko takes a coarse piece of dark burlap or raw leather known as paquet Congo. Inside this cloth, they pack specific ingredients, soil, soil gathered from the grave of a person who died in a violent accident, died like poisonous, like contipates, the centipedes. Then sulfur powder, crushed red peppers, and a piece of parchment containing the target's full name written in the fresh blood of an animal. The poker wraps the package tightly with heavy twine, pulling the ropes until the bag is dense and solid. Then they hold the package directly over a blazing fire made from cursed wood, allowing the smoke and sulfur to penetrate the cloth while chanting long invocations to uh, summon the petro spirit. The client is instructed to take this hot, spiritually charged bag and hide it deep within the framework of the victim's bed, or bury it directly beneath the main steps of their doorway. Every single time the victim sleeps on that bed or walks over that step, the volatile burning energy of the wangle leaks into their subconscious, creating a frantic, chaotic obsession that drives them straight to the client. Let us look at the final account tonight. The story of a woman named Vivienne and a successful merchant named Julian. Julian was an independent man and had zero interest in Vivienne. Driven by jealousy, Vivienne visited a Bokor and commissioned powerful love wangle, which she managed to grease into the wooden slat beneath Julian's mattress. The magic was incredibly potent. Within weeks, Julian abandoned his business travels, came to Vivian's house, and declared his complete devotion. They built a life together that lasted for 10 years. They had a beautiful home, raised children, and Julian was incredibly protective and successful. Vivian enjoyed a decade of absolute stability, wealth, and attention, completely forgetting that her marriage was built on a foundation of sulfur and graves. But a wangle requires regular maintenance. The petro spirit are hot and aggressive. They must be regularly cooled down with a specific ritual oils every few years, or their energy turns violent. After 10 years, The oil dried out, and the Vivian neglected the altar. The change in Julian was terrifying. He didn't stop loving her. The curse was too strong, but his love turned into a dark, paranoid madness. He became convinced that the entire world was trying to steal Vivian away from him. He quit his merchant job entirely. He used his wealth to uh, buy heavy iron bars, installing them on every window of their house. He bought massive chains for the front door, turning their beautiful home into a literal prison fortress. He refused to let Vivian or the children leave the house. He would sit in the chair by the front door for days without sleeping, holding a weapon, staring into the dark hallway, muttering that the spirit of the wild were coming to take his wife. Vivienne realized with immense horror that the curse has mutated. One night, while Julian was pacing the perimeters of the house, she desperately tore apart the bed frame, found the old dusty leather bag, and threw it directly into the burning fireplace, hoping to end the magic once and for all. But destroying a petro-wangle without the proper cooling ritual is an act of suicide. The moment the burlap bag touched the hot coals, the sulfur inside ignited. The fireplace exploded with a violent, unnatural green flame that spread across the room in seconds. The house caught fire instantly. Vivian ran to the door, screaming for her children, but Julian, completely possessed by hot energy of the curse, didn't try to escape. He ran into the flames, grabbed Vivian in a massive, unbreakable death grip, and pinned her to the burning floor. His face was melting from the heat, but he smiled, a twisted, manic smile, and whispered in a dual, roaring voice, "You tied the knots 10 years ago. We burn together." The entire family perished in that fire. When the local authorities cleared and charred the charred ruins of the mansion weeks later, they found the skeletal remains of Julian and Vivian, completely fused together by the intense heat impossible to separate. You cannot use the fire of the unseen world to warm your home. The flames you ignite to trap someone else will eventually turn your entire life into the ash. These are the realities of price of desire across the Atlantic Ocean. From the graveyards of South America to the crossroads of Brazil, the mechanics change, but the consequences remains absolute. Every shortcut taken through the dark arts is a trap. You may enjoy the wealth, the passion, and control for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years. But the unseen world always comes to collect its debt. And the interest rate is always your sanity, your life, and your soul. All moral boundaries forbid these acts for this exact reason, to protect humanity from the monsters we invite into our own houses. That concludes today's episode. In next episodes, join us for the next 4 type of the black magics performed in South America and Africa. Don't forget to like, subscribe our channel, and press the bell icon. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Until that, goodbye.